Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Tuesday, blessed Pentecost Tuesday. We are officially in the season of Pentecost, these days following Pentecost Sunday, of course. And welcome to episode 497 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast. 497 episodes. Since I've been counting, I think I was able to go back and get most of those early episodes, but man, can't believe that we're getting ever closer to episode 500, especially doing the show once a week the last year or so, with, of course, the birth of baby Sif. But before we go any further, though, tonight, we're going to be talking about Garfield. That's right, the Garfield movie is coming out this weekend, in addition to Furiosa. Of course, Furiosa is also coming out. That's the film that Gary is making us watch for homework for Friday Night Tights. To be fair, to be honest, I do have some interest in it. There's some intrigue that I have about it. I've been hearing some pretty good things, at least from early reactions, people that I trust. There was a really good discussion on Film Threat. Shout out to them as they got to see an early copy of it. And it sounds like, to me, it's going to be one of those things where if you enjoyed Fury Road, that you'll probably enjoy this one. It's kind of what I'm getting. And I always want to remind people with that caveat that Fury Road itself was not a Mad Max movie, and I think if you don't like the film specifically because of that, that's a very valid criticism, right? That's completely valid, and it's a very good point. In fact, I still had a lot of fun with Fury Road, though, right? I still had a lot of fun with Fury Road. The biggest issue, of course, that I had was not only that it was not a Mad Max movie, but it was kind of that bait and switch, right? It was Furiosa's film, and so when they finally announced the Furiosa project, I said, well, what's the even purpose of doing that when you already have a Furiosa film? It's called Mad Max Fury Road. So at least this time, being upfront saying this is a film about Furiosa. They didn't really do that the last time they did a film about Furiosa. So we'll talk about those numbers going into the weekend. Right now, at least according to Deadline and some others, it's tracking pretty strongly. So we'll see if this is able to hold up strong enough to even potentially beat out the opening weekend of Fury Road, which opened back in 2015. So that'll be very interesting. We, of course, will also talk about the fact that summer is here. That's right. My exams have officially finished. So able to get all of my grading done other than some last minute, last things to do, the kind of closing out of the year type of things. Summer is essentially here for me. And that's very, very exciting. And I am, of course, looking forward to summertime schedule. And for those that have never been here on OMB Reviews during the summer, I try and add on a couple of weekday early morning streams. So we have our Good Morning Asgard podcast. That'll be making a return once again this year. I'm looking to maybe just stream once or twice a week, the Good Morning Asgard podcast. Don't want to overdo it. There's a lot of things that I really want to get done around the house. There's a lot of projects I want to work on. There's a lot of books that I want to read. And so I am trying to make sure I'm being as smart with my time, as wise with my time as I possibly can. So we'll talk a little bit about what some of those plans are, some of the things that I am working on. And I'm going to also show y'all something I was working on for about maybe an hour and a half today, and it almost drove me insane. I've talked about this before. In fact, if you follow my articles on geeksgamers.com, and if you've followed my methodology, especially more recently, I've mentioned something called my random crazy charting, my RCC method. Let's just say I have finally decided to basically fully dive in to figuring out how to automate a chart that accounts for international take, the take from China, the international without the China take, if there is a China take. And let's just say it took me down a lot of rabbit holes in how to work through Google Sheets and how to get the equations to work just right, how to make sure that it's connecting online to the locations that I need to do. I actually had to go in and I didn't really learn coding, but I had basically used the inspect feature. If you've ever accidentally seen your browser page where all of a sudden on the right-hand side, there's like a bunch of numbers and stuff. You're like, what in the world am I looking at? Right, that inspect button, you actually can look at the code on the page. Had to kind of do that, figure out something about how to basically make it so that my chart is able to auto-update. Just like I've had recently where my the box office, the total box office auto-updates, or at least it's supposed to auto-update. Obviously, the numbers can cause issues with that. But I was actually able to figure out a way to specify domestic, specify international, specify even China. That is definitely the one that's been the trickiest so far. There's kind of a couple workarounds with that one because the numbers when it comes to their international tracking. You can tell it's probably not getting priority access on their servers because of how much slower it is to load than some of their other pages. But y'all have a look at that. It's at a very rough stage, but should look very familiar to anyone who follows me for the box office breakdowns and things like that. But let's just say, oh boy, things are about to get pretty crazy. This specifically chart is actually looking at the year 2023 because unlike Tony at Deadline, and we'll talk about him today because he is one of the articles that we're gonna look to as far as the projections for both Furiosa and also for the Garfield movie and the potential for Garfield to even be a surprise hit potentially, right? Shout out to Valiant Renegade for talking about this earlier in the week, maybe a day or two ago. But also, it's gonna, again, going back to Tony, he had this really obscure and really just completely, obscure is not even the right word for it, just completely ignorant and nonsensical list of biggest box office hits from last summer. And a lot of the films on his list actually lost money. And so one thing that I'm trying to do is actually break the numbers down to show why his list is garbage, what the actual highest grossing films, net gain grossing films were of last year, and what the biggest box office bombs were of last year. So that's what I've been working on. Very excited to show you all the early stages of that. But before we get any further, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button over on Odyssey, and smash the rumble button as well. And of course, share the stream out for anyone who you think might find this discussion interesting, especially talking here about box office, Garfield movie, Furiosa, things like that. And also, if you wish to donate to the channel to help support the extra work, especially I'll be doing over the summer, please feel free to become a member on the channel, get access to some special things. And you also can donate via Streamlabs and Super Chat. For Streamlabs, just because YouTube ain't getting none of that. But let's say hello to our people in the chat. So I got my chat window opened up early today, so that way I could catch anybody as quickly as I could. So we got Snortopoopas Cuber, who is here at 6:58. He says, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortopoopeth? Welcome back. He then says, hello to you, Snortopoopus. Yofran Ferrode says, I smashed the like button for you, brother. Well, appreciate it, Yofran. Master of Gaming in the chat. Hail to you. We got Scott McKenzie, who is a member on the channel. Hail to you, Scott McKenzie. Jeremy Sikowski, what's going on? He started off just with Evening Odin. Well, thank you for saying hi. What are your thoughts with Deadpool Wolverine ticket available this early? Also, did you see Disney finally shelve Snow White? I did not see news of them shelving Snow White. That would be news to me. I'm surprised that it wouldn't be one of the trending stories on Deadline right now. So again, I'll take that with a grain of salt until I see the story myself and see the source of that story. But as far as the ticket sales, it's actually not all that surprising. Maybe in today's world it is. Keep in mind, there were times when box office sales would go, especially for big tentpole releases, would go on sale months before. And so clearly they are anticipating this film to be a big success. Clearly they are wanting to drive anticipation for it by starting it this early. It probably also, I imagine that part of their methodology here is they want to be able to have some numbers to help build the hype, right? Because if they're able to say, oh, we've got the biggest ticket sale opening day this early, you know how there's those random records that sometimes get set where you're like, is that really even a record? You're kind of having to put a lot of caveats there. Because I still think that film is going to do very well. I think it's going to be very successful. I think it's going to be the one bright star of the year, really, for Disney. Because I've already talked at length in previous streams, and especially the last box office breakdown I did on Sunday about how Planet of the Apes, right, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, really isn't all that in a bag of chips. When you look at the numbers, it's doing well, especially for the world of today. But comparing it to other films from the franchise, it's not doing the same stuff. And as far as the amount of money spent on the movie and where it's making money, it's not looking like it's going to make its money back, at least individually as a film. I think I mentioned at the end of the article this past week for Geeks and Gamers that the only chance Disney really has at this point to make money on that movie is the fact that it has multiple production companies. So how much is being footed by Disney? How much is being footed by these other companies? And also primarily it seems that 20th Century Studios, right, the Disney-owned property, is seemingly primarily a distributor. And so as a distributor, they get some deals. They are able to potentially also offset some cost. And so we could potentially see them make money off of it for that reason alone. But the movie itself, it's not looking like it's going to be that much. But with that being said, Deadpool and Wolverine, I do think will be really the biggest thing Disney has. And I think them starting the sales this early One, because I think there is that much anticipation for this movie. I mean, when the trailer first came out, there was a huge explosion of conversations, of anticipation. I know that, someone like me who is so over the MCU, is so over what Disney has done to so many of these franchises, I'm excited because it looks like Ryan Reynolds is getting full control, or had full control of the project, or at least had a lot of control of the project, and bringing back someone like Hugh Jackman, and the fact that there's going to be a lot of shots taken at Disney, and I think that they're probably going to be pretty good if I had to take a guess. I am excited to see that. Definitely excited to see that. All right, let's see. Prince Screen in the chat. What's going on, brother? He is also a member here on the channel. We got Icthulu, who is a member, saying, "Hail to you." What's going on, Icthulu? Says Odin chat. Good evening and happy Tuesday. Wish you all a joyous Garfield weekend. I'll be going to see Furiosa. I really have no interest in Garfield. I know that some might see it because they like Garfield. Some might see it because they like Chris Pratt. I don't really care for either, to be honest. I don't hate Chris Pratt, but I'm also not someone who simps for him. I think that sometimes there are people who are like, well, he doesn't attack us, and so we have to support him. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. But I also just want to see good movies, and I just don't think anything with the marketing for the movie has really come across as that interesting. So I'm not saying the film is bad, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the last version they did of The Grinch, right? Of how the Grinch Stole Christmas. I don't even know if that's the title they gave to it, but it was essentially that story being retold. And I remember the animation, and I remember the trailers for it, and it just looked very underwhelming. It just didn't seem like much, and it didn't do much box office wise. I heard some good things about it, some mixed things about it. That's kind of what this movie seems like. That being said, it is a movie that is getting some decent marketing. It is as far as just exposure. And the bigger thing, though, is they only spent $60 million on the budget for that film. So, yeah, I think Garfield definitely has a very good chance. Now, so far, it has opened internationally. We'll talk more about those numbers in just a second. But, yeah, I think that Garfield has some potential. I was listening to Valiant Renegade's coverage of that. Shout out to him. And I think he had a lot of very good, keen insights. We got Keely Chow in the chat. What's going on, Keely? Welcome back. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for having you here. Yes, Print Screen added on to Cthulhu's comment saying, or a Furiosa weekend. Yeah, depending on who you are. Carl Jacobs, what's going on, brother? Welcome back to the chat. Glad to see you here. All right, I think now that chat window should be done. So let me close that and get back over here. So that way I don't have to have too many windows open. By the way, when making the chart that I'm going to show y'all later in the stream, my computer died. So it was on my work computer. It was on my laptop, which is not a it's not a low performing computer. It's got Ryzen 9. It's got, I think, 16 to 32 gigs. It has to be 16 gigs of RAM, I think, because I had a lot of tabs open because I was, again, trying to find all of the different website pages that I would need to put into this chart. You'll see what I mean when we get there. And in the process of doing that, I must have been 50 plus tabs open. And all of a sudden my computer, it just stopped working. It just froze. And then I got like blue screen where it was just like, something is not working. But it was like half the screen. The other half looked distorted. It was weird. The computer reset and then it was fine. And then I reopened the Chrome windows because Chrome saves your tabs like that. And all of a sudden it was fine. But it was like one of those things like, man, I knew that I had a lot open to get this done, but goodness me. Oh, goodness me. It was a lot to get through, though. Get a Chow saying, Hail Odin, how are you? Thor, Freya, and Baby Sif doing? Also, what did you have for pizza? How did you have for dinner Friday night? Bro, it's always the same. It's always the same, man. Actually, this week it was different because I was sick this past weekend. As you all know, I was not on Friday Night Tights. I was dealing with I found out after the fact, and this is just my own best assessment, that I had some type of food poisoning. Because it only impacted me, I guess it was Friday, was it Thursday or Friday morning? I think it was Friday. Yeah, it was Friday morning. And I felt awful. And I was up at like 3 a.m., 6 a.m. It was really, really bad. I got really sick. And I somehow was able to will myself to go to school to be able to do the exams that I had that day because I just hate missing work. I'm that kind of personality. I don't like missing. I don't like falling behind. I don't like putting the burden of the work I have to do on anybody else. And I luckily, though, I would not have made the decision if I thought I was going to be contagious or anything like that. So I could tell like pretty early on, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is food poisoning. And sure enough, within a day, I was fine. I had no fever or anything like that. But it was really bad for a few hours. But it was bad enough to where by the time FNT came around, I was like, I don't think I can do this. And also my family was in town. So family coming in, not feeling well, that was a pretty easy choice there. But as far as what I had for dinner, I didn't have much. I didn't eat that much while that was going on. Oh, man, oh, man. Let's see. Laura, the modern Major General story. Laura, short. What's going on, Laura? Welcome back. Orange hat. The man with the orange hat is in the chat saying, welcome to Asgard. Behave and type @Odin. Yes, indeed. If you have a comment or question, just put @Odin at the very beginning of your comment. Lets me know that you're trying to get my attention. Helps out a lot. Thank you. Let's see. And he indeed reminds everyone, sorry, I had a brain fart for a second there. Please don't spam. Please do not put inappropriate content because we are a family-friendly channel with a family-friendly chat. We got Kimberly G. Killian Shadowcat. What's going on, Kimberly G? Saying, howdy, Odin, Orange Chat, and all the chat. I might lose my power. Storms here are getting strong. Hey, praying for you, Kimberly G. Anyone else who is in the way of any storms? Right here, we're doing okay. We're not really close to any of those storms right now. It's supposed to be clear until this weekend, and then some of those storms might be coming through. I know that Ryan Hall had a video earlier this week going through that. Wouldn't be surprised if he's live, if there's really bad storms going on right now. That dude's awesome. Let's see. Rob D at 7:30 says, hello, Odin. I watched The Iron Claw. Great movie. Was not expecting such a tragic film. The ending scene and song really got me. Yeah, dude, it's a great film. If you've not seen Iron Claw, I highly recommend it. It was my favorite film of last year. I thought that Zac Efron did a phenomenal job. I thought the entire film was great. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll love it. If you're not a wrestling fan, there's a lot of stuff to enjoy there, and I think they'll probably love it too. I just think there's those extra things you appreciate and recognize as a wrestling fan if you are one, versus if you're not. But it's just such a great film. It really is. It really, really is. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, what's going on, Gary Banjo Sandwich? What's up, bro? Time to say 3 to go. I must have context. I must have context, Gary. I don't know what you mean by this. I've said a lot of things since the stream started. Oh, man. Let's see. Tina Guzman, what's going on, Tina? Hail to you. Thanks for being here. Saying, are you enjoying vacay? Well, it didn't officially start yet. Again, last exams. We have a makeup day tomorrow, and then we've got meetings, end of the year meetings like usual for anyone who's a teacher knows that. And it's always the same thing, right? Professional development, you got to get it done. And so my summer technically does not start until next Tuesday because Memorial Day is this weekend, and that means that daycare, school are closed. So that means that Papa's going to have to take care of the kids because I'm pretty sure the wife will not be off because she works remotely, and so therefore they don't usually get the same type of days off. In general, they don't in the corporate world. So I will let you know on Tuesday of next week how I'm enjoying vacation. So far, it's been very productive because yesterday I got home early from exams. I was able to get a lot of stuff done around the house, stuff that I've been wanting to do, go to the grocery as well, get a lot of stuff. Crazy, dude. These grocery prices are insane. So that's why when anyone says, the economy's fine, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Going to the grocery store once or twice a week sometimes, depending on what's going on, I can tell you it's not doing fine. The cost of everything has gone up. And when you're spending like $200 at a single session, and again, that might be low, but for a family now of 4, one who doesn't really eat that much normal food because she's still so young, can't believe that she's going to be 8 months tomorrow. Gosh, crazy that 8 months have gone by since baby Sif has been born. But yeah, you start to learn, and anyone with bigger families, I can only imagine the kind of prices that y'all are paying right now at the grocery store. It's insane. So I was able to do that, and then today I was able to do a couple things around the house, but ultimately I spent a lot of time working. I spent a lot of time working on that chart. As you all know, we love charts here on OMB Reviews. Icthulu says, I am well versed in Excel automation. I would love to fix your sheet automation, specifically using filters to group studio performance. Dude, yeah, I mean, if you can help me make it look pretty, absolutely reach out. I use Sheets, and I think Sheets for me just works a little bit better because Excel is very limited unless you have Microsoft 365. And that's one of the things that I just hate about Microsoft in general is that they make you pay for so many things. Whereas with Google Sheets, it's like you can pretty much do anything you want and it's completely free. I know that obviously that creates some limitations there, but I imagine there's not much difference between the two. But yeah, so far I got all the data entry pretty much down, but if I could make it look nicer, that would be cool. And because I am terrible when it comes to design. Father Miller, hail to you, Father, says, ahoy, I give my final on Thursday. On Thursday. You give it on Thursday. Yeah, I gave my last one today, and all of them are graded, and everyone's taken them, which is great. Keith the Chat says, I can't wait for you to do some Steiner math. I don't know about the Steiner math, but definitely doing some math. CM Chunk. What's up, CM Chunk? Prince Green, went to Best Buy earlier today. Dude, that must have been so depressing. I'll read the rest of your comment now. And it dawned on me they no longer sell physical media. This is a bad sign of things to come. Yes. That's why it's so sad where it's like, man, I used to go to Best Buy all the time to see what movies were out, to see what was in the $5 bin when there was a $5 bin, or at least what was in like the discount, the new steelbooks that would be out, how the other steelbooks were doing. I used to love that stuff. And then COVID happened, and to be honest, COVID just destroyed Best Buy because the way they handled COVID was terrible because obviously they followed all of the mandate stuff. But the worst thing about it was that when you went into the store, they had it so that basically someone was with you the entire time. When they first started to reopen, I actually didn't go back because I remember it was John Flickinger. Shout out to John Flickinger. He was telling me that when he would try to go to Best Buy, and essentially in order to make sure that anything he touched got cleaned or that he didn't touch anything he wasn't going to buy, someone was with him the entire time, essentially. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. Like, that was my biggest problem with Best Buy was that people were always bothering me. I was like, no, leave me alone, okay? I'm browsing. I'm looking around. If I want help, I'm going to ask you for help. Please do not assume that I need your help. In fact, I just want you to leave me alone now, okay? Thank you. But then having someone there with you like the entire time to make sure that you don't get your germs or anything. And it's like, come on, really? And so it was a long time until I went back. And then when I did go back, it was a lot less people. But then also, again, because there were so many less people in the store on a given day, it meant the workers had that much more free time, which means it was so much easier to spot someone when they were just browsing like I would be doing. And so they did it to themselves by doing the things they did, by choosing the things that they did. But hey, Walmart's picking up with this. Walmart is picking up a lot of the physical media drops. So a lot of the exclusive steelbooks, Walmart's going to get them. Right now, I think just Walmart and Target, ultimately. Because Best Buy is out of the game now. And, is there another store that I'm missing off the top of my head? Because I know there's another store that kind of is getting out of the business too. But Best Buy was the big one. And it's really, it is very sad to see that happen. Father says, looks like the news about the shelved movie comes from Inside the Magic website. Okay, yeah, doesn't sound reliable to me. I don't know much about Inside the Magic, but Let's see, Kincaid and Rumsky. What's going on, Kincaid and Rumsky saying, I may make some popcorn in your honor. Please hold the fort until I return. Yes, Kincaid and Rumsky, I hope that you enjoy your popcorn for my return. Yeah, my brain works in such a weird way where Friday feels like ages ago. So it's like my return, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I wasn't on the Friday stream. I also didn't get to go to the Saturday salty stream because I was still not feeling 100% and my parents were in town. And so I was like, I can't make it this weekend. And of course, my salty nerds are always very accommodating, very understanding. And that's why I love them so much. I love them. Saturday is one of my favorite days of the week because of that. And I missed that one especially. And so I forget sometimes though that it really hasn't been that long, right? In my brain, it feels like forever at this point, but it's not. It's one of those weird things with ADD. Michael Burgett says, hey, Odin, curious what you thought about filmmakers that are heavily invested in their films, like Coppola with Megalopolis and Costner with the Horizon films. I don't mind that at all. I think that is fine. I mean, it shows that they have belief in their project. It shows they have passion in their project. To me, it means I'm more likely to give it a shot. Because it's not a guarantee. We could think of some of the worst films ever made had people's money in it. The worst film of all time, which is also one of the best films of all time, The Room, for instance, was all financed by Tommy Wiseau. So just because you're fully funding it does not necessarily mean it's going to be good, but it does mean you have passion about it, right? And it's Tommy's passion that made The Room the cult classic that it now is, and I think it's the passion of people like Coppola and Costner that will probably make those films. What drives me crazy, though, is the reports that Horizon, at least I think it was maybe part one. I don't know if they got to see everything at what was it, the Cannes Film Festival? The Cannes Film Festival? Was that a film festival? I know. And there was like a 10-minute standing ovation. But then all of a sudden, once the critics started getting back to their hotels, now a bunch of them have written just like complete hit jobs on the movie. So I don't know who are the ones standing and giving it the standing ovation in the reports, and then who are the ones that are writing these very harsh reviews. I don't get that. But ultimately, the original question, I think it shows, okay, there's passion there. They clearly believe in it. So if they're talented, it gives me a lot of hope. If they're not talented, or if it hasn't been proven, okay, that doesn't always mean in either case it's going to be good. Luke Zilla, what is going on? Welcome back. Gary Banjo Sandwich says, I was named after Garfield. Gary Sobers, the cricketer, was called Garfield Sobers. Interesting. Is it Sobers or Sobers? Will Riker, what's going on? Welcome. Keely Chow says, sorry to hear that. It's all good. It's all good. Hardwick, did you eat the fish? No. What it is that I have always, and this will be heresy to some, I've always enjoyed burgers, steaks, whatever it might be, well done. That's always been my go-to. My wife, she's all about the medium rare. All right? And that's one of the things whenever I'm cooking, whenever I'm grilling, I always try to keep that in mind because I know that she likes it a little bit more on the red side. I like mine a little bit more well done. So I've started to like train myself to be able to eat and enjoy when it's medium rare. All right. And I think that because sometimes baby Thor, who's now really toddler Thor at this point, he is a three-nager and I love him to death. He had a big moment. When you're a parent, if anyone's a parent out there, or if you're just, someone who knows kids, you will completely understand why this is a big deal. If you're not, you'll be like, why in the world are you even talking about this? Okay. So today, all right, was bath night, and baby Thor, right, toddler Thor, we have been going through potty training with him, and we've been trying to really sell him, saying, hey, once you're potty trained, if you can be responsible to tell us, okay, when you have to go and things like this, we're going to bring you to the zoo. All right. So it's been like the big, okay, the zoo. And right now we're planning on going this weekend. So we're very excited about that. He's very excited about that. But we, again, he's still working at it. He's still not quite there. But tonight, we had a major breakthrough. It was bath night. And then we're playing, we're doing the thing. And then all of a sudden he just goes, I have to poo. And I'm like, oh, okay, bud. And then picked him up, put him on and then like right away pooped in the potty. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's what I'm talking about. You told me. I was so happy. It's one of those things where it's like, it's one of the proudest moments of my life as a dad, because at this age, those are the things that you're the most proud of, because there's no real concept of morality yet. So it's not like he's doing, good things and helping people in the way that, people can when they are a little bit older and they can understand consequences and things like that. So for him, it's like, this really is one of those proud moments, because like, man, growing up so fast. So anyway, getting back to it, that was quite the tangent, but getting back to it, so I, in trying to cook that, because of the craziness going on with Thor, right? Things going on with Thor, it made me not pay attention as much to how much the burgers were actually cooked on Friday, or on that. Actually, no, it would have been on Thursday. I would have been cooking this. So on Thursday, and so I think I undercooked the burgers a bit more than I should have, because it was a bit more pink, a little bit, again, a little too raw. Just shouldn't have been as raw on the inside. Again, most of the burger was cooked, but the middle obviously still had that. So what I think happened was I ate that, and clearly it was undercooked, and at least for mine, something must have been in it for me to have a terrible, digestional reaction, I guess you could say. And that's what happens sometimes. Anyway, long story. ADD, everybody. Gary Badger Sandwich Worthington says, had Friday night. Thanks, Gary. There's nicer ways of saying that. Snorpoopus says, food poisoning. Somebody probably slipped pineapple into your pizza. No, I mean, that would have made me vomit. Jeremy Skowski says, food poisoning. Someone must have injected pineapple pizza into your meal. Look at you. Snorpoopus and Jeremy Skowski with the same comment almost. I sense that there is a conspiracy against me. Miss Modern Muses, hail to you, Miss Modern Muses. Welcome back, Miss Modern Muses. Welcome back. I'll be on her show, Catholic Explaining, sometime this week, I think. We still need to work out the time. And we'll be talking about papal infallibility this time. So I'm very excited for that talk. Always love doing the Catholic Explaining episodes with her. Go check out her channel. Tina Guzman says, are you out of school yet? No, I'd already answered that. I think this was posted before I had answered that, though. Stormtime UK, says Gary. Gary? What? I don't even know what that means. Kincaid Rumsky says, who wins in heaven, the Von Erichs or the Hart family? Oh, boy. Well, that brings up the whole theological discussion of who is in heaven. And I'm not trying to say either way on any of the Von Erichs or any of the Harts, just for the record, okay? Only God can know what is in that person's heart at the moment that they die. But if we're going just completely over wrestling, angelic wrestling, obviously they're not angels, but like angels, right? Heavenly wrestling, I would probably say the Hart family. But at this point, right now, the Von Erichs, because I think that they have the numbers advantage. But again, there's a lot of things that you could unpack with that comment. You didn't realize just how deep that comment really was. Let's see. Orange Chest says, context 3 to go to 500. Yes, thank you. Okay, yes, that makes so much more sense. That's why I always need a little bit help with context. Like you said, 3 more episodes to go. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But 3 to go, I'm like, 3 to go to what? Huh? Who? What? Ryan Liu, did you get your ticket to Deadpool and Wolverine? I'll be watching mine on the 24th since I'm going to Hong Kong in July. I've not gotten mine yet. I don't really buy out this far in advance because I don't know what's going to be going on. I don't know if family's going to be in town. I don't know if I'm going to be out of town somewhere else. So I'm probably going to wait until like the week or two before. And I just knowing the way the box office has worked and even some of the more successful films, none of them have ever been completely sold out, at least in my area, a few days before. So I'm not too worried or concerned about that. And for a movie like that, I don't really care about where I'm sitting. That's not a movie I go to see the visuals. That's not a movie I go to get the best sound experience, right? If I'm going to see a film like Dune, the issues that I have with Dune aside, that's a movie I want to have the best experience possible. For Deadpool, it's like as long as I can see who's on screen and hear what's going on, if it's good, I'll be able to enjoy it. All right, we'll go back into the chat in just a little bit, but let's do our first story of the evening. And so kind of combining a couple of films here today, but the title of the video, the title of the stream is definitely focusing on Garfield. And we'll talk a little bit about what has been said about the potential for that film. Let's go ahead and go over to our friends at Deadline, Tony and Nance, good old Tony and Nance over at Deadline, giving us an early preview of this coming weekend, saying Furiosa is trucking, oh, the puns, to 80 to 85 million worldwide start. The Garfield movie consuming 30 million. Okay, 80 to 85 million worldwide, and this is a very important factor here, okay? Because this is how Tony and Nance will try to mislead you, okay? 80 to 85 million worldwide versus the 30 million United States. So what do you see immediately on this page? You see 80, 85 versus 30. Okay, on paper, that makes it sound like Furiosa's walking away with this weekend. That is what it's making you feel like. That's what it's trying to make you think. Notice also they choose a very unflattering image of Garfield. It's almost as if there's an agenda of sorts behind the scenes. Lord knows it couldn't possibly have been Tony, who, let's all remind ourselves, made a top 10 most profitable films of 2023 list and completely left Sound of Freedom off that list, but included the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And the only way that that film actually got massive profits was because he, in that chart, with that movie only, decided to add an extra category where he added in, quote unquote, the merchandising sales, whatever that's supposed to mean. None of the other movies on that list got merchandising sales. Oh, well, come on, Odin TMNT, that's about toys. Yeah, Barbie. Barbie's about toys. I'm sure there's a bunch of other films that have other merchandising things, but no one talked about them. And also, how much of that merchandising was stuff that would have sold, regardless if there was a film or not? What's the typical merchandising sales on a TMNT project on a given year? So Tony clearly likes to add things in to keep films off, right? And we all saw what he had to say about Sound of Freedom. He constantly brought up far right wing and QAnon adjacent and all the typical nonsense, right? So that's Tony. Can't be trusted, completely disingenuous, and that's really all of mainstream media to a lot of ways and to a lot of degrees. But Tony is just really one of the best. So if you ever wonder why do I have issues with Tony, why do I have beef with Tony, it's because he's a part of the problem. He really is the problem. And this number right here, again, these types of headlines just really show you that, because he is painting a narrative clear as day. 80 versus 30, that sounds quite vast. Now let's go into it. There will be moviegoers at the Memorial Day weekend box office. The industry can be thankful for that. Just not as many as the 2 previous years when the entire 4-day frame exceeded 200 million. At least he's giving some honesty there. Wish it was in the headline. With Warner Brothers' prequel Furiosa and Sony's Garfield hitting marquees, the volume of event product increases, which is a good thing. More big movies give people more reasons to attend. Unfortunately, both titles are not Top Gun Maverick, which had 160.5 all-time Memorial Day opening record, nor is it last year's Little Mermaid stateside, which had a start of 118 million in their mass appeal. Now, I think it's interesting that he's going to try to make the argument that, oh, Little Mermaid, remember how big that was? It's like, yeah, that movie still lost money. Good on you, Tony. Goes on to say the Furiosa is both a reboot and a Mad Max franchise and a prequel as Anya Taylor-Joy steps into the one-armed role. Okay, yeah, I guess I would say that's a fair argument to say because different actors, but this is still very much within the Mad Max Fury Road universe. So it's not really a reboot. It's a prequel of Fury Road. Fury Road, we could argue, was a reboot because it's different Mad Max and, you know, time frames are not as clear as far as where that one is in the universe versus where the other one is. But okay, Tony. Keep going with that. It goes on to say, after a big con world premiere, which won over critics at 85% certified fresh, and you all know that means nothing, Tony. A feat that last year's big event pick at the fest, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, couldn't pull off. Furiosa is eyeing an 80 to 85 million global start. But here's the important number that he buries down here. Broken out, that's 40 to 45 million abroad and 40 million 4-day domestic. Okay. 4-day domestic for Furiosa. Okay, guess what? That's the first thing that we need to call out here, right? One, he's trying to paint the picture that it's going to be this huge opening. When the reality is that, no, 40 million domestic versus the 30 million domestic being reported for Garfield. Okay, that paints a very different picture. 40 US versus 30 US versus the title they have, 80 to 85 versus 30. What that means is that Garfield not only is looking to be the number 2 film this week, technically has a shot at number 1. 10 million separating those two? I've seen crazier things happen. I'm not saying that it will, but I have seen crazier things happen, okay? But let's go ahead and let's get down to brass tacks here, okay? Because, again, you can see he was trying to paint this as a very big deal. Okay, let's go back to Fury Road. If you're wondering why Guardians is there, it's because it's the first movie that popped up the comparison chart. Calm down, people, okay? So let's actually readjust this. Let's go back to the actuals, okay? So Mad Max Fury Road, back in 2015, had an opening weekend of, survey says, $45 million. That's when you don't have the adjusted numbers. That's when you don't factor in the fact that movie tickets are a lot more expensive today than they were back in 2015. So $45 million 2015 domestic opening. That was for Fury Road. Adjust that for inflation, and that goes all the way up to $58 million. So what Tony is saying is that Furiosa is expected to make 18 plus million less domestically in its opening weekend versus Furiosa. Oh, I can't wait, because you know I'm going to do it. I can't wait to break down the ticket comparisons, because let's just say that means millions less people are going to be seeing Furiosa this weekend domestically than saw Fury Road back in 2015. Now, let's be fair. The marketing for the film, I think, has been pretty effective. I think the marketing has been pretty good. Some people may not agree with that. Not every trailer has been good. But in general, I would say the marketing has been effective. It seems like a very fun, fast-paced action movie. But what's fascinating to me also is when you look at these numbers here, right? Mad Max Fury Road opening May 15th, 2015. Okay? May 15th, 2015. Its first Friday, meaning Thursday, Friday numbers, was 21 million. By Saturday, 41 million. By Sunday, 58. These are the adjusted numbers. Here's the other thing that Tony is kind of burying down at the end of that paragraph. Wait a minute, 58 million after 3 days. What was that, Tony? Wait, what'd you say? Wait, 40 million over 4 days? Oh boy. So not only is Fury Road ahead, right? Not only is Furiosa tracking 5-10 million below where Fury Road was domestically, that's where Fury Road was domestically over a 3-day weekend versus a 4-day of this. These are actually very bad numbers. For a movie as big and as epic as it seems Furiosa is going to be, and I am someone where I actually am excited. I think there's a lot of potential for the film. People I trust, people over at Film Threat, for instance, have said very positive things about it. That being said, I'm always going to be honest with you when it comes to the numbers. And I'm sorry, Tony and Nance and anyone else in the box office media, you cannot continue to do this nonsense. You cannot continue to say, oh, we're gonna compare the international release of one movie to make this other release look smaller. Because 40 versus 30, very different story, instead of 80 versus 30, which is what they were trying to paint. It goes on. Internationally, Furiosa will hit 75 markets. So what this means is that we're going to have a pretty good idea of how this film is going to be. Also, let's keep this in mind too, okay? Let's keep this in mind too. 75 markets, that means they're only expecting it to make 40 to 45 million in every international market. The vast majority of international markets. That's an abysmal international opening, in fact. So a movie opening to $80 million worldwide with the scale of this? Oh, come on. Come on, man. This is awful. But he's excited because apparently the China release of this movie, because it is getting released in China, no cuts. No cuts. Now, it goes on to say that that's going to be in June, right? So June 7th. It goes on to say 75 markets throughout the opening weekend. Tomorrow includes majors like France, Korea, followed by Germany, Italy, Australia, all of Latin America on Thursday, UK and Spain on Friday. Beyond that, Japan goes May 31st. And we all know that, again, sometimes people say, well, just wait for the Japan, just wait for the Japan. And it's not a very, there's not a lot of strong evidence to say that Japan's going to be the make or break in the market today, for instance, right? And then China, they only get 25% of that box office. So it doesn't matter how well or poor this film does in China, because they're not going to get anything from it. They could make $100 million there. They would only get $25 million of that $100 million. Okay? So not good. Now he goes on and on and on and on and on. And look at all that space talking about, again, Mad Max and how amazing it is. And then he talks about Garfield. So it says the Garfield movie already has $49 million in the till from a staggered offshore launch, with 40% of the international release still yet to come. It's looking at $30 million over 4 days, stateside at 4,000 locations, including 3D and some PLFs. Thursday previews start at 2 p.m. Alcon Entertainment financed the feature. Columbia Pictures serves as a worldwide distributor, excluding China. DNNG animated the film. The Mark Dindal directed title features the voices of Chris Pratt, and on and on and on. RG critics aren't wowed at 47% rotten. Can you really say that I'm surprised? It's a Chris Pratt movie. The critics have always been not nearly as kind when it comes to Chris Pratt movies. Now, I don't think the movie's going to be good necessarily, but when would I ever want to trust a Rotten Tomatoes critic? And again, that's all he says about Garfield. The rest is talking here about John Krasinski directed, produced film If is looking to be at a 50% drop. That's not good. That's not the kind of drop it wants to have. If or if IF, someone said it's pronounced IF, I don't know. But if IF, imaginary friend, is looking at a 50% drop, that's not very good. That's not a very strong side. And then he spends the last one looking at Angel Studios' new movie. It says, so Angel Studio has in around 2,000 theaters the Andrew Hyatt directed and written Sight starring Terry Chen, Greg Kinnear, and Natasha Mumba. Blurb. When a blind orphan arrives in his waiting room seeking a miracle, a world-renowned eye surgeon must confront his past and draw on the resilience he gained growing up in China during the Cultural Revolution to try to restore her sight. The movie is looking to do low single digits over 4 days. 11 reviews currently on Rotten Tomatoes and at 73% fresh. I actually have an early copy of that. I still need to watch it, but I'm very excited to do so. But look at how, again, those 3 movies right there. Oh, look at all that. Look at all that for Furiosa. And he kind of buried it all at the end, saying, okay, yeah, it's only getting $40 million domestically. Okay, Tony, thank you very much for that. And the one other metric I'll use here is Box Office Theory. So as you all know, one of the guys who was kind of the reason why Box Office Pro had any legitimacy to it whatsoever left, started his own thing, now he's at Box Office Theory. And he hasn't given us a box office preview yet. He usually posts that on Wednesdays. But according to him, as of the 16th, so this was the update as of about 5 days ago, he had the tracking going to the Garfield film being around $32 million on the low end for the 3-day. He had that, which I found to be interesting. And then $41 million on the high end. So clearly he thinks that there is going to be, right? So talking here, and I can never remember his name, Sean Robbins. So Sean Robbins clearly thinks that there could be a lot of play with the Garfield movie. Now, he also had Furiosa set at the 3-day of 46.5 to 59 million. Clearly, Tony and Deadline and some of the most recent tracking might seem to indicate that it's not looking to be as good as it once did. But these are going to be some things that's going to be very interesting to watch, to say the least. And going to the title of the video, right? Will we see Garfield potentially be a surprise hit? Keep in mind, okay, when it comes to the Garfield movie, this movie only cost $60 million to make. Okay, so if we use a 2.5 multiplier, all right, we're looking at around 140-ish million to break even. It's already made close to $50 million international. It's going to add another $30+ million domestic. So it's going to be more than halfway there. And it still has a lot of international markets to open up in. And it's these kinds of movies, right? If the movie is able to get good word of mouth, again, this is a big if, okay? If the movie's able to get big word of mouth, good word of mouth, and among the family demographics, amongst parents and kids, that is all that you need to really be able to have something like what we saw with The Last Wish, right? Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. Didn't have the biggest of openings, wasn't really a huge story, but it kept going and going and going and was able to make and hold over a long extended period of time, and ended up being one of the biggest releases of that year, making up one of the most profitable films of that year. So add that potential for this movie. In addition to that, add the $60 million budget, which is nothing. I mean, the last time I had heard of a major character animated feature costing under $100 million, I think it was the last Despicable Me movie, which cost, $80 to 85 million or something? Maybe, no, that was Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda Poor, I think, cost $80 to 85 million, which was a lot less. So clearly these other studios that are not Disney have learned how to make their films for less. Garfield looks to be about the same. Them getting all the way down to $60 million, in fact. So it'll be very interesting to see where these numbers go. But that $60 million production budget start, and where it's made money so far, in very few countries, it's made already about $50 million. Very impressive to see that. Has a lot of potential. Anyway, what say you? Let's go back into Z Chat, thank y'all again for hanging out tonight. Great to be back. 30 people still watching. Let's see. Tina Guzman, what's going on, Tina? Says, the cost of groceries is nuts when you walk out of the store and see you didn't actually buy much. Yep. Absolutely. Kimberly G, who's a member, says, groceries are getting out of control. Smaller portion boxes and cans, even regular candy is high. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And it's just so crazy how much higher the costs are now. Ryan Liu, do you know the Noir edition for Logan 4K is rare? I did not. I thought that came standard on the 4K disc. I could be wrong on that. Hardwick says, Fleischer Cartoons is working on a proper restoration of the 1940 Superman cartoons to make up for the bad Blu-ray restorations from Warner Brothers. Nice. Icthulu, Google is an evil, vital corporation. Stop supporting them. Use Open Office. I know, Cthulhu. I understand. I know. I've tried to dabble in Open Office. For me, the one thing holding me back from something like Open Office, I think this might be the one that I've been considering, is that I can't live update. So one of the things I rely on as a teacher is PowerPoint, and I have not found that's Microsoft, but again, Google, Microsoft, we're talking about two giant corporations, both equally as evil in different ways. But one of the issues is that sometimes I need to update my slides in real time. And because Open Office, I think, is one of those that it's about privacy, which is a good thing, but it also means it's about local. So I can't get on an internet signal and update it and have it updated in real time. You can't, like, it doesn't auto save when you're working on it or anything like that into, like, again, I understand, trust me, as someone who's I'm a physical media guy. Okay. But even as a physical media guy, guess what? I digitize my movies. Okay. I have a server that I can use as my own personal Netflix. There is that convenience factor. And especially as a teacher, you definitely need, sometimes to have those things. So yeah, I totally get that though. I totally get that. But especially with what I do with box office coverage, I don't know how to make a chart from Google or from Excel. So I can only imagine the type of workaround I have to do to try to get everything that I'm doing right now to work there too. Because that's the other thing too, is that my chart online updates in real time. I don't think you can do the same thing with Open Office. But again, I might be thinking of a different platform. I might be thinking of LibreOffice instead. Let's see. Ryan Liu, TSA, not going to lie, the Steelbooks don't come back in stock, and I could never find them in stock in my store in my Walmart. Well, I mean, again, they only more recently, over the last year, have gotten further into the Steelbook game. And I know that I'm all for physical media, obviously, but that's why it's actually wise. If you really want something, track it. Blu-ray.com usually has a pretty good tracker letting you know when things go on sale. You have to buy these things now basically as soon as they go on sale, and to get them online. Because usually, and this is the sad thing, normally a lot of these special releases, by the time they get to stores, like the official release day, they don't have any to put out because people have bought them. So let's see, Luke Zilla, did you get your Deadpool? I already answered that question. Nope, I have not. Kimberly G, I think peanut M&Ms were $6 for the family bag. I agree, but I can't have fun candy at my job. Randoms. Oh, let's see. Hardwick says, Megalopolis sounds like a glorious mess based on the reviews. It might even surpass The Room. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Prince Screen says, Roland Emmerich self-funded part of Moonfall. I know you and most of others didn't like it, but for me, it was a guilty pleasure. Yeah, I did not like it, but I can understand the guilty pleasure. I can understand that. Rogue Attraction, what's up, dude? Howdy. Hardwick, standing ovations at cons mean nothing. They usually do it to honor the person, not the project. Indiana Jones Out Destiny got a 5-minute standing ovation for Harrison Ford. Interesting perspective. Orange Chat says, happy wife, happy life. Absolutely. Jonah Wingster, we don't judge you, Odin. To chat, get the cross ready, because I found a heretic. Sorry, not sorry. Dang right. You go poop, baby Thor. Yeah, little man. Yeah. And also because I have the baby cam set up in another window. He's already passed out. Usually it takes him a long time to go to bed, but clearly he had a lot of fun today and so proud of him. It also probably helps that he doesn't have to go because he's so resistant sometimes to use the potty. So for him to be communicating it now, it's a big deal. It's a big duty. Anyway, General Wingster, Odin, I'm taking a dump. Please be proud of me. No, General Wingster, I will not be proud of you, okay? How many times do I have to tell you, Wingster, you're not my son, okay? Snort Poopus. I remember my mother being so proud of me when I learned to go potty on my own. She smiled and said, it's about time you're 25. Dang, son. 25, Snort Poopus. Now, is that 25 in Poopus years? Because that's a very different thing. That's a very, very different thing. Rob D says, for episode 500, we need an official Blu-ray and 4K count of your collection. Goodness gracious, dude. I don't think I could do that for the stream because that would be a lot to do live. But I have been planning. One of the projects I have for the summer is to do a full Blu-ray collection video. I haven't done one of those in a very long time. I think I've only done one officially. And if you go back in the channel, you could probably find it. It's so long ago that I did that. But yeah, oh my gosh, too. Now, I'm trying to figure out, though, whether I'd want to do that before or after I reorganize, because I still have not put them back in order from the time the shelf fell. That's why the Fragile sign is still up there, and I still need to put them back. Ivan, what's going on? We were potty trading. We had a sticker chart. Once they got to 10 stickers, they got a new Paw Patrol toy. Yeah, we thought about that. Lady Frey and I thought about doing stickers. But I think we didn't know where we're going to put it. And they were already doing some similar thing at school. So what we did was we found something similar. Because we talked to his teacher about it too. And she was like, oh, absolutely. At this age, use some type of bribery. We do it where if he goes pee on his own, if we don't have to force him, there's no like issue, then he gets an M&M, one single M&M. And if he goes poop on his own, he gets a marshmallow. And he loves marshmallows. He's so excited for that one. And it was so funny because as soon as like today with the bath, and then he like told me and everything, he's like, of course, he just got out of the bath. And so literally like I lifted him out, put him on the toilet. And he's like freezing because he's just like, out of the water, like nothing. And so he's like, I get a marshmallow. It's like, yeah, you do, man. Yeah, you do. But yeah, we found something similar with that. Peter Fontaine, what's up, brother? Says, the reason you cook those burgers to be medium well. Exactly. Believe me, everything I've cooked since then, I've been a lot more cognizant of it. Harwick says, did you know that it's easier to digest meat if it's ingested with the enzyme bromelain, which breaks down the collagen in the meat? Interesting. Doesn't help, I think, if it's not been fully cooked. Oh, man. Let's see. John Harrison says, was it Furiosa tracking for 50 in the United States alone? Yeah, I think I mentioned that in the last. So according to Box Office Theory, it was tracking 3-day, 46.5 to 59 million. So I don't know if it might be because his chart is relatively new. I don't know if what he meant by that is 4-day. It would not surprise me if, so going back to the Sean Williams chart, I would not be surprised. I'll put it back on the screen too, just so we have context. It would not surprise me if the number he has here is meant to be 4-day, because if you think about it, he has a 4-week out, right? He has a 4-week out analysis here. So all the way from the 24th to June 14th. And most of those films are coming out over 3-day weekends. Furiosa and Garfield and Sight are coming out over the 4-day. So my guess would be that these numbers are meant to reflect the 4-day. And so we'll probably get that clarification when the official projections come out, when his forecast comes out. And again, Box Office Theory, Sean Robbins does this usually on Wednesdays. And this will be able to confirm my theory or not. But it would not surprise me if he means 4-day, 46.5 to 59. That sounds about right as far as like the drop from what Tony is now saying. And then 32 to 41 million for Garfield makes sense too. So it'll be interesting to see if Furiosa does worse and Garfield does better. Yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. It'll be fascinating to watch this battle unfold. Yeah, Victor Fontaine, which means Furiosa will be 40 million in the United States. Exactly. I broke that down. Michael Brigette says, I have my ticket for Garfield, debating on also getting a ticket for Blue Angels, Doc, to see it in theaters. It's opening. Okay, yeah, I saw that, and I'm very tempted, now that you mention it, to try to bring my son, because he loves the Blue Angels. He got to go, because I have family down in Florida, and they're nearby where the Blue Angels fly, or they were able to go by where the Blue Angels fly, and he loved them. He has he has his own stuffed Blue Angel. The only reason I wouldn't is because he's not like oversensitive to sound, but he's 3.5. So loud noises, especially sustained, can get a little grating on him. So, for instance, whenever we do a blender, we have to always preface it with, we call smoothies vroom vroom juice. And I came up with that because in order to, one, warn him that we were about to blend something, but also to try to make it so that he wouldn't be, because I never want him to be afraid of loud noises, because I know there are some people where they don't even, it's not like they have any type of sensitivity to it. It's just that when you're younger and you get used to certain things, you get, again, those types of developments. And it's why some people are afraid, it's what the Pavlov behavioral development stuff. So I never wanted him to have that association with it. And so what I did was, instead, I looked at him with a big goofy grin and went, vroom, 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 vroom. So it became vroom, vroom juice. And it's still known as that even to this day. But I think he would love that. But my only concern would be, one, he's not potty trained fully yet. And two, I don't know if he would be able to, depending on the theater and the sound level. Let's see. Prince Green says, what are your thoughts on the Apprentice movie with Sebastian Stan as Trump? I've seen very little about that. It sounds like typical Hollywood schlock, though, It's too on the nose. It's like, oh, great, a movie about Trump coming out during an election year. I bet there's no secondary, tertiary, or nefarious reasons for that to happen. It's very convenient. Very convenient. Short says, I was so excited to see that How to Train Your Dragon was going to be in theaters again. Unfortunately, showing on weekdays at 10 a.m. That's how I felt about The Lord of the Rings. So The Lord of the Rings is coming back in theaters, and it's the extended editions, and I want to see them, but there's one showtime, and it's at 4 p.m. Eastern. For those keeping track at home, the kids get out of daycare at 5 p.m. Eastern. And that's only if we could pick them up earlier than that, but usually by the time I get out of school and everything, it's usually about 5 p.m. that I'm in the building. So yeah, I could absolutely see the first 30 minutes of the extended edition in theaters, but if I'm going to watch only 30 minutes of it, that's barely anything. If you're looking at a 4-hour movie, 30 minutes is not a whole lot of it. So actually, I just finished the Fellowship of the Ring extended edition today. I've been watching that over an extended period of time. I actually started watching it around the time I got sick on Friday because it's a comfort movie for me. It's like, there's just something about being in the Shire. And the extended edition, because there's so many extra things that especially Bilbo goes into, right? And the voice over that Ian Holm does as Bilbo, it's just top-notch stuff, But yeah, that's how I feel with that one. Let's see. Rob D says, Odin, shut up about inflation. Every page shill. Exactly. And that's why for me, I'm like, okay, I'll give up inflation if you will at least adjust for ticket price and do a fair comparison. You got to give fair numbers here. All right. Kaylee Chow says, Odin equals Stotsteiner, Tony, and the other page shields equal Samoa Joe. Interesting. Short. I'm excited for Furiosa, mainly to see Hemsworth do something different. Yeah. And it sounds like he's having fun, which is something that we haven't seen a lot from him over the past few years. Carl Jacobs, Furiosa is yet one more sequel. We don't need sequels. Yeah. Michael Brigette says, the doctor that's based on site lives and works in Nashville. Heard and known about him growing up in the area, so it's cool. There's a film about him. Yeah, and again, I think it's cool that Angel Studios is doing that film about him. Rowdy says, don't worry, Odin, in another year, your typical Disney film will have a $500 million production budget. Dude, I don't know if y'all, again, shout out to Valiant Renegade. He had a great stream the other day where he broke down how now you have Forbes really breaking this down. I forget the name of the writer over there who's doing this incredible work. But basically, she's uncovered that, oh yeah, remember how we thought that the last Doctor Strange movie cost $350 million? Turns out it actually cost over $400 million, and that's when you take into account the discount it gets. So that's a massive budget for Doctor Strange, of all things. And in fact, she showed you how it actually costs more on paper than the Avengers 2. The Avengers Age of Ultron cost less, I believe, than Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness did on paper. And again, I would obviously want to adjust for inflation because I'm always going to be fair with that. But dude, so bad. Your average pager nerd says, hearing the end of that rant, all I have to say is Disney is stupid, also evil. Yes. Kahan Remsky, do you consider Catholic Kennedy to be the number one reason Disney movie budgets have gotten so large? No. Because it's not just Star Wars, remember? Now, she's one of the most egregious because look at the Star Wars movies. Those movies cost an insane amount of money. They cost so much money that they barely made profit. In fact, the last movie, Rise of Skywalker, when you take into account the real numbers, lost money. It lost like $100 million, and that film was a $1 billion film. But they spent like over $500 million just on the production budget alone. It was insane. Master Gaming, will Sight overperform opening weekend? It's very hard to say. Angel Studios does not have guaranteed hits. Sound of Freedom was something very different because of the message behind it. I don't think Sight will have that same... I know it, for instance, it does not have that same message. But I think it'll do well. I think it'll do okay. Dennis Felicita says, I got the steelbook for the Batman 66 TV show at Walmart. Nice. Orange Hat says, just wait till he says while on the toilet, you are no match for the mighty Thor. Oh, the day that happens. Prince Screen, you may give baby Thor M&Ms now, but at what age will you give him some shadies? I see what you did there. I picked that one up right away. I might not get it every time, but I picked that one up pretty quickly. Indeed. Hardwick. Also, did you know that the primary natural source of bromelain is pineapple? Well, then I know what I won't be having. And as I made the point, it doesn't make a difference if the meat's not cooked. Cthulhu. Oh, sure, your kids get M&Ms and marshmallow treats, but your faithful audience doesn't get a thing. Priorities. Oh, so do I need to be giving y'all things now when y'all go potty? Are you now just going to in the chat say, hey, Odin, guess what? I used the potty. Not much I can really give you over the internet, but let's see. Hardwood says, LibreOffice is much better than OpenOffice. It can even be customized to be almost like Microsoft Office. Yes. The one thing I could not find, though, Hardwick, was how to get it to where it's literally updating in real time. I'm on this computer, on that computer, and it's all updating almost simultaneously. I obviously don't need that for Word or anything. What I need it for is for PowerPoint, or whatever the equivalent for LibreOffice is. And that was what I couldn't find. Anytime I tried to look for it, there were workarounds, but they looked very complicated. Orange Hat says, that movie about Trump is currently embattled in a legal battle about defamation. Apparently, they are painting Trump as doing some horrible things to his late ex-wife in the... Yes. In a very, grape territory. Yeah. I saw that coverage earlier today, and all I could think of was, yeah, it's an election year. Can't say I'm that surprised. Because that's the way that Hollywood works. And if you think it's bad now, just wait until we get closer to November. It's comforting to find that there is at least some people that seem to be breaking out of their cultish coma. And keep in mind, I'm not someone that's going to tell you who to vote for. It's not my job to do that. I'm a very... It might seem like I'm political, but I'm a very apolitical person because for me, it's all about the faith. It's all about the Catholic faith. That's my politics right there. It's Catholic social teaching. It's how do I take the teachings of Christ and apply them into the world around me? And who can help bring that about the best? There's a lot of things to consider with that because there's a lot of different principles that some would say are conservative, that some would say are liberal. And that's why, to me, it's more important about what is the right moral thing to do and not what is the most politically expedient thing to do. Harvick says, do you remember Funny or Die as the Art of the Deal, the movie 2016 starring Johnny Depp as Donald Trump? I don't, actually. Your average page nerd says, I love the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. I had those on replay for months when they came out. Yeah, they're so good. They still hang out very well. They still hold up very well. There's only a few things. I do have issues. I'm going to be honest. They're not perfect movies. One of the issues I have is towards the end of Fellowship when they show the Uruk-hai on the way. And there's especially that one moment where it's almost like Aragorn and the Uruk-hai are looking at each other, but they do this weird, slow not even slow motion, but like the the frame rate starts like, it's like skipping almost. It's not good. That was a bad choice. That just still does not look good today. And obviously some of the CG hasn't aged well, but because most of it's practical, most of the film, I would say 99% of the film still looks fantastic, still holds up, and is better than most of the garbage that we have today. All right. We'll jump into the chat again in a second. So let me see. What could I do? All right. Before talking about summer, we'll have the summer, because the summer plans isn't a very long conversation. Let me give you a glimpse of how my brain works. Okay. So as I mentioned in the very beginning of the stream, earlier today, when I got done with exams and I got some stuff around the house done, I probably spent about an hour and a half, one, researching, and two, applying that research to a new chart. Now, this is not the most updated chart. This is not the final version of the chart, but it is, I think, a very, very interesting look at what the most likely total profits and total losses for films in 2023 were, taking into account the fact that most films, most studios, get 55% of the domestic totals of the box office, 40% from international audiences, and 25% from China specifically. So let me just show you this thing. It's probably going to drive some of you crazy. It still drives me crazy, okay? So if you want to know, why did you have so many tabs open earlier? All right, let me try and see if I can zoom in here, all right? So you'll notice this looks somewhat familiar, right? I've got my opening weekend, my 2-week totals, my projections, all that good stuff. But now I've added a few extra categories. And so I have this nice domestic column. These are all the domestic totals for the individual releases. I have my international without China. That's right. It takes the international number from the numbers.com and subtracts what is from China. And then if it had a release in China, the number updates here. As you can see, a lot of films last year did not release in China. China is very, exclusive about how many films from the West get released in a given year. So not all these numbers have updated. You can see there's some screens that are still loading. And again, that's for a variety of reasons. It's just one of the issues that comes up when you're trying to have these things be done automatically. But anyway, so getting these three columns together took a little bit of time, because let me just see. All these are mostly export or rather importing data. What drives me crazy, or what's pretty insane, is let me see if I can make it even bigger. Enhance. There we go. All right. I don't know if y'all can see this equation right here, but look at that equation. Taking one column times 0.55, another column times 0.4, adding that all with another column, multiplying by 0.25, and then subtracting it by the total cost. That's right. and that's not even the most of it. All right, let's go back further. All right, so I have a column here. These are all hyperlinks to the websites for the numbers.com. And this is just the box office, the total box office for them. This right here, this is basically the little cheat sheet. This tells the website, okay, what column, what part of the information on the website am I trying to pull from the website? So this is telling it, hey, take it from the numbers.com and take it specifically from the place where it tells you the total box office for it. All right. This is what the domestic one looks like. So yeah, I was trying to research how to do that. Luckily, you can copy and paste things. So it's like, I didn't type all of this out every single time, okay? I'm not that crazy, all right? I'm not that crazy. The international, that's where it's able to grab that number. The tricky one for me was how to get the China number, okay? So on a lot of these places, let me go ahead and pull one of these up, actually. So a lot of these places, a lot of these sites or movies on the numbers have a dedicated China box office. Now, in the case of a film like Mean Girls, it did not have a release in China, so that's why it gives you that 0 number. But the tricky thing is that because this is a very obscure part of the website, right? It says, go back to the main page. Okay, that loaded up pretty fast, right? So I got to go to international. That takes a second to load. And then look, there's not even a China option here. So I was able to actually get it to pull this data. And at one point, the chart was kind of going crazy because it started giving me an equation. And I don't know if y'all can see this equation right here. But yeah, it says concatenate, left R11, find, mid, find, China, right, len, find, and a bunch of numbers in between. It randomly came up with that, and it actually found all of these pages. I did not actually have to look. So I did all this time finding what movies got released in China, opening those up in like 50 tabs, only to find out that, oh, wait a minute, somehow Google Sheets has something built into it where once it noticed that I was posting a link to a specific page on thenumbers.com, and the only really difference between them was the name of the movie, it came up with this equation to autofill in. And so it just randomly autofilled all of the other links, and they all turned out to be accurate and correct. Now, again, because not all of them had a release in China, and because it's still a new process for me, not all of them are pulling all of the data in. But again, just to give you an early glimpse of it, this is what I was working earlier. So that's why Mean Girls, because of where it made its money, it lost about $1 billion. All right. Night Swim made about 11 million. Poor Things lost about 2.5 million, in fact. Interesting stuff there. $29 million was lost by The Boys and the Boat. $113 million was lost by The Color Purple. $124 million was lost by Aquaman. Now, again, that is using the budget that was reported, not necessarily what the final number was. And I still need to go in and double check to make sure that these numbers are all correct. It says here the Marvels lost $239 million at the box office. That wouldn't surprise me. That sounds about right. But anyway, that's why I call it my random crazy charting and why it almost drove me insane. Because I was trying to make sure everything was working. Anyway. Because I have not done it yet, and because that sequence absolutely deserved it, that's what happens when you enter into my head, and this is also what is always playing in my mind at every moment of the day.
Time to see a real math magician at work!
Math. All day, every day. That was playing in my head the entire time I was making that chart. All right, we're getting close to the end of the show, so let's go ahead and see y'all's last comments and questions before we completely wrap things up. Let's see. General Wingster, who is a member, says, a standing ovation from you would be nice. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to show you the shorts that I'm wearing? How dare you? How dare you? You can't see my shorts. They're my shorts, Wingster. King of Rumsky to say, the problem is how do you stop bribing your kids for using the toilet properly? Yeah, that's a big one. That is definitely a big one for sure. But because it's so little, it I think will be something where it won't be as hard, because now that we're going to be able to do things like go to the zoo, or over the summer when he gets potty trained, we also want to start to get him into swim lessons. I think that those are bigger things where those will eventually be able to take the place of the smaller bribes. To be like, no. If you continue to go on in the way that you are, and you continue to do really well with these things, then you get the big treat, right? Rob D. Oh, that's fun. Harwick says, is it just me, or would Treat Williams have been the best actor to play President Trump? He had an almost identical smile. I don't know. I think that if anyone's going to play him, and it's got to be someone who doesn't look like him, but someone who does a spot-on impersonation. Like there's like an Instagram reel or something like that going around now, and it's someone singing a song as Trump, but instead it's them like voicing the words, I want you. You know how it is. Let's see, Michael Brigette says, it got announced the Christopher Reeve doc, Superman, is getting a theatrical release through Fathom Events for 2 days, September 21st, 25th. Looking forward to it. Nice. Orange Hat says, Legolas and Uruk slow-mo. Essentially, they were trying to sell it that Legolas could sense them with his elf ears. Yeah, it just didn't work. And when that is the worst part of your movie, you got a lot of good things going on for you, you know? Hardwick, the frame rate cutting thing is a Peter Jackson trademark. He did it in some scenes of King Kong as well. I remember the nostalgia critic criticizing it years ago. Oh, yeah. It's not a good look. It's not a good thing. I mean, it would be like calling out the J.J. Abrams lens flare. At least the lens flare isn't so distracting as to just ruin the moment. For some people it might, because it does get distracting and his lens flare is ridiculous, okay? I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I would rather a lens flare moment than a I'm having to watch choppy footage right now, if you catch my drift. If you catch my drift, of course. Of course. Prince Green says, Poor Things didn't lose enough. That degenerate movie deserves anything that comes its way. Yeah, I really wish that film would have lost a lot more money than that. In fact, let me go to the other tab that has the 2.5 multiplier, because sometimes it's not always, it's a little bit rosier in that. Also, wait a minute. Poor Things came out in 2023? I guess it did. Yeah, so that's a difference, by the way. Poor Things, according to the chart, over the main chart, it has $14 million in profit. But that's the reason why, taking into account how much less a film gets internationally, makes a big difference, right? $14.6 million in profit versus, according to my RCC charting, going all the way down to minus $2.5 million. That's a pretty big swing, right? That's a pretty big swing. But it does, yeah, it makes me sad that film on paper made money or got close enough to making money. King and Rumsky, I've seen the Puffs math. My day is complete. Yes. Cthulhu, you better potty train your kids before visiting the community pool. Yes, don't worry. Don't worry, we will. Jonah Wigster, don't forget the scene with Frodo and Elrond. It was weird. It was weird. It was weird. I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, there were a couple of weird scenes. A couple of weird ones for sure. But that's the one that always sticks out with me. I think it sticks out with me right now because it was in the last part of the film, which I finished up earlier today. Orange Hat says, I must now depart. Gotta get ready for the ballroom. You all behaved well later. Yes, good later to you. Good later to you? What am I even saying? What am I saying? I don't know. I must be tired, and I must need ice cream. Because now that I'm feeling better, I would love some ice cream. But that's going to be it for me, everybody. So the thing I will end on today is summer. So yeah, summer is indeed very, very close. I officially start next Tuesday after the Memorial Day holiday. So be on the lookout for an official schedule posting. Right now, I am looking to be doing my morning stream. So during the summer, I get to do a morning stream. And I'm probably going to do it before the start of Geeks and Gamers Daily. Unlike others, I don't like streaming at the same time as when other people do. And if other people have established a time of when they stream, I don't want to be, taking anybody away from them. All right. I try to be courteous like that. So I think last year we streamed from 10 to 11. I think 10 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m. Eastern, we were able to do that. So I will keep you all posted. I'll look and see what my schedule was last year, how we can make that work, what's going to be the best for me. And I think that will probably end for you. And so I'm looking to do right now 1 to 2 streams a week. Good Morning Asgard podcast, talking pop culture, talking movies, right? Talking all kinds of stuff. And I know that tends to also be a better time for some of my European people too. So I know that y'all tend to enjoy not having to be up late night for a typical stream like it normally is. So I will definitely keep y'all posted when that is official. I obviously need to talk with the wife and work it out with the kids and make sure everything works. And so be on the lookout for that. I'm also planning on doing a lot of extra stuff. So obviously doing a lot of stuff with box office charting. This is what I'm doing right now. The chart that y'all saw was just from 2023's box office. So I'm planning to find a way to clean it up, to try to reduce the categories and the columns as much as I possibly can, to get that then into my regular every week charting, because then we'll have a much better understanding of where a film actually stands financially. Is a film actually successful or not? Instead of having to say, well, according to this chart, it's successful, but hey, if I look at this at RCC charting, it's going to be very, very different. Having it all automated to be able to do that much more easily, I'm very, very much looking forward to. So I'm hoping that I'm able to get all of that working, and I'm very much looking forward to figuring all of this stuff out. So, yeah. Those are kind of big plans. I also, of course, with that, probably around the time that episode 500 comes around, a few episodes away from that now at this point, as someone mentioned earlier, We'll also try to do a Blu-ray collection video. That, of course, is Blu-ray and 4K collection video. And we'll try to do some other things. I'm also working on trying to be a lot more consistent with bonus content. So if you are a member on the channel, you get access to a bonus podcast. I am filming an episode tomorrow. There is a Q&A post. Check it out on the YouTube community page. Also, it's on the Discord server as well. If you are a member, right, you get access to that page. Post a question. I'll be with Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment. She will be my guest host for the stream, so for the podcast episode tomorrow. So put those questions in as soon as possible, so that way we have some questions to answer at the end of this stream. Speaking of who, Force of Light Entertainment, there she is, Michelle. Thank you again for agreeing to join me tomorrow on the Members Only podcast. So yes, please ask some questions on that post. Again, a community post on YouTube if you are a member, and in the Q&A section on the Discord server for those who are members on the Discord server. And make sure, of course, you sub to Force of Light Entertainment. Amazing people. Finally got to meet them in real life last 2 weeks ago at this point. Crazy how time flies. Michelle and Natalie, amazing people. So make sure to support them. And that's going to be it for me, everybody. So tonight we talked about a lot of things. We talked about Garfield is tracking pretty strongly and how Tony continues to shill. $80 million opening. Oh, wait, that's $40 million domestic. Garfield, according to you, is $30 million domestic. So what you're saying is that Garfield has a chance? That's what I gather. I'll wait for the Sean Robbins update on Box Office Theory because I tend to trust him a little bit more than someone like Tony, but we'll see. But I will, of course, be seeing Furiosa this Thursday. So if you want my instant thoughts on the movie, follow me on Criticlist. I post all of my reviews on criticlist.com. That's written reviews. I don't write very long reviews, but I try to get as descriptive as I can. There's a lot of really cool metrics over there. If you've never been on Criticlist, please do so. Geeks and Gamers is getting involved with Criticlist now, and there's a lot of other fun people. The Film Threat guys are on there, and it's a very awesome platform. Shout out to Blaine. Always looking forward to giving them a shout out because they're awesome. So go check it out. Follow my reviews over there and post your own, because some of these movies, since this is very early days of the platform, need some more reviews in order for a public score to be posted. So if you want to help with that, go check out Criticlist and be sure to tell them that Odin sent you. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, everybody. This has been a fun one. Let's see. Coming up, we've got Friday Night Tights this Friday. And trying to think of anything else. Stay tuned for the Good Morning Asgard podcast stream, which should be starting up next week once summer officially begins for me. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I think hold on. Okay, I thought I had the wrong tabs up for a second. So anyway, have a wonderful evening. A blessed Pentecost. We are in the season of Pentecost. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my May supporters at the Chosen of Valhalla level, starting off with my Patreon supporters, Father Luca Illich. Hail to you, Father. Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel, which is Eagle Rider. And also Miss Martin Muses, check out her YouTube channel by the same name. To my Subscribe Star peeps, starting off with Matt317, check out his Twitch channel by the same name. And ZK-Man, check him out over at xtheboundaries.co. And also, lastly, to my YouTube member at the Chosen of Valhalla level, Mr. Roy, who is, of course, awesome, as all of my Chosen are amazing. If you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, make sure to check out the top link in the video description below. You can also get access to things like exclusive podcasts and giveaways. I do a giveaways channel on Discord if you are a member at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above, and a ton of other stuff. So check out more information about that in that top link below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.